what we do basically is start conversations on masculinity, because some of the questions we were asking last week of like, what did you learn from a male role model or parent? What ideas do you see in the media about success and masculinity? What impact does the ideas of masculinity have on you? All that stuff, we think, our organisation think are important conversations to have, and things that conversations that people might not have had with each other before. So that's the function of our organisation. It's just to get people talking about masculinity, themselves, and the impact.
What's the expectations from it? Is it for us to like find something about masculinity that's going to help us, or is it just a conversation as a conversation and that's it? You know, what's the hope behind it?
I think the hope or the idea is there's some internal reflection on yourself and what you carry around and what you're dealing with, or what the people in your lives are dealing with. And we hope that internal reflection is thoughtful and positive, maybe just gets you to think about something that you haven't thought about before, or gets you to have a conversation with someone or learn about someone in a way that you haven't before. So I guess there's the internal reflection bit, and there's also an external bit of connecting with someone else on these issues, if that makes sense.
I don't know if it's worth saying, this program is funded by Movember,
yes,
which is a mental health charity. Yeah. Movember, to bring out really bleak statistics around things around like male mental health and male suicide. They're really caring about being preventative and having a preventative action against that. And so part of that is just generally on the lighter side of things, or on the lighter side of things, just improving males' mental well-being generally. And that's a big drive behind this project as well, which is about connecting with ourselves and connecting with each other and connecting to our community. And because there are statistics about male mental health, it's directed towards groups of men, essentially, which is why these workshops happen with male-only spaces.
So would I be right in saying that it's an awareness and an investigative type of program which allows the participants to understand masculinity maybe from a wider breadth than what they did before?
Yeah, I think so, yes. Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Are we talking about in terms of how we view ourselves, or is it to say that my views on what a man, what a female is, that have been carried on for 69 years, is now irrelevant or redundant? I'm trying to understand, what do you all mean by masculinity?
Can I say something on that?
Sorry, so did you say for the last 69 years?
Well, I will be 69 in December.
So you're seeing women when you're 1, 2, 3, and 18?
No, I've grown up knowing the difference between male and female. It's that simple. You see, that's
we're talking about gender roles here.
No, I know I'm referring to gender. That's what I'm trying to get them to define. What do they mean by masculinity? Is it the views that is being portrayed? What do they mean by that?
I think they were trying to ask us what's our views of masculinity.
No, I'm asking them exactly where it's coming from.
Okay. Young kids and the impact of masculinity.
Yes, the impact is the key thing. So it's about your sense of masculinity, like what it is, as well as what the impact is.
And I think from us as an organisation, talking about masculinity, sometimes we say masculinities with an S, with the idea that masculinity is different to different people, and getting us to talk about our different ideas of masculinity. So my version of masculinity, your version of masculinity, your version, and getting us to talk and learn from those different perspectives. So not to say that the masculinity that you've known all your life is wrong or anything like that, but to learn from different perspectives and for us to learn from your perspectives of masculinity.
I do not take none of those complexity. I do not. I've been very honest with you. You know, just when Chaka started, he says there's no. What he did said there's female masculinity or something like that. And I think that to me, this is where, you know, when it comes to this mental thing, this is exactly my simple opinion. I look at things in many cases, unless it's an opinion of mine, in very simple. Black and white, there's no gray areas. What do I mean like that? You've got masculinity, you've got feminism, you've got male, you've got female. That's it. Anything else there is just clouding my judgment.
Yeah. But that's your experience.
And it has been for 69 years.
Well, I'm not talking about, you're talking about the gender.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the energy.
Yes.
And there's a difference in that, because what you just described is literally male-female gender, and you're assuming that if you're female, you're going to have female energy, and if you're male, you're going to have male energy. And the toxic version of a female energy is going to be feminism. That's a toxic, or the toxic energy of a male is masculism.
Yeah.
But you can actually have a crossover. You can actually go over crossover. So you can have a female with masculine energy, what we describe as masculine energy, and we can have a male with feminine energy, which we prescribe as feminine energy. And that's where the confusion lies. That's where the confusion, I think, lies in what you said. Is there are, and you study your statement by saying there are no grey areas. Unfortunately, in a society there are grey areas, and I think the thing about mental health is realizing that there are grey areas. Because when we stay to this subscribed way of thinking, that's a mentally breakdown, because all of a sudden you're thinking, am I this, am I that, or where do I fit in all of this? Because I don't feel that masculinity, I don't feel that energy. I feel this energy. There's something wrong with me, and and I think this is the era. This time in our lives is when we start to question it, because we allow to reflect and think. And I think for so many times, especially in the Afro-Caribbean community in this country, we are surviving and are striving. And this is the era where we're going to start striving, because we find that place in society instead of surviving, which is a conversation recently. The problem now is that, I'll give it a typical example, right? Statistically speaking, right, this is your grey area. Statistically speaking, the most successful marriage in London at the moment is between a black woman and a white man. Because at this moment in our society, they're the two top figures here. Because black women are now not waiting. In the olden days, they're the least ones to have an affair or anything like that, in terms of that. In this country I'm talking about. Yeah, because they'll be waiting for the partner. But she goes and do that. Now the black woman now has got to the stage where she's like, you know what, I can get a job, I don't need a man, blah, blah, blah. We've talked about this the last time. So they, and money-wise, they're going in that trajectory. The black man at the moment is slowly kind of creeps slowly, but he's not there. The white man is still up there, and everybody's banging him at the moment, saying, you know, you're responsible for all what's happening here. But unfortunately, these two are kind of getting together. Unfortunately, and this is the grey area some people refusing to acknowledge, because they don't think it exists. I'm not saying interracial marriage or relationship is a danger to our society. I'm just saying the crossover, because you're going black-white, there is a crossover. And there is a gap, and we all come into in that grey area and finding that place in that area. That's what I'm saying.
I hear what you're saying. You took a long way to say that, and I still hold that, and I still hold why I said there's no grey area. Those grey areas now being created. He started off by saying their male and female will have, like said, a overflow of what we call it. Will it be testosterone or whatever the case is? And it's like saying their people are born with 6 fingers. You see it, I've seen it. But that's not the norm. And I'm saying, the reason why I said there's not grey areas, those grey areas are created by the argument you just put over. To me, those are the grey areas. You see the thing, we're talking about gender role within the household, or whatever the case is. Me just said, she does the washing, I will go and take the dustbin out. That's not referring to. I'm talking the role, I'm talking the fact that in terms of, I'm a man, you're a woman, or whatever. She is God within her role as a woman, I'm God in my role as a man, whatever that happens to be, that works for us. Now, there are a lot of things that he says which I totally disagree with. I'm going to tell you why I disagree with it. But he's right in one sense in terms of showing the disparity between black men and black female. What you do not realize, this is engineered. It is created. I have watched this thing going throughout the old 70s, throughout the 60s. I left school 1971. And I remember up in my borough there, so when you go to Brenton, whatever, it could start with the simple practice. You're homeless and you're looking for a home. They will give it to a woman. I'll take the man up the street, one thing for yourself. You only have to pick up the paper now, you see different things that said courses for women, courses for women, courses for women. And I'm saying openly, because I've seen it over and over. The woman has been used as the bullet in the gun to shoot the black man. The man will always be at the detriment, so it's not surprising. And I'm saying it's by design, not by accident. So in one aspect, I accept what you're saying about the road in terms of up there and down there. And I'll show you another thing, just to show you another thing, when you use the interracial relationship in the sex rate. Do you think that's by accident as well? Have you sit back and look at your TV and look at the adverts? I've never seen so many black person on TV, especially in adverts.
A bit way into racism, right? But no, I was actually stuck on something that you said about masculinity and femininity, right? And when you talk about that, how there's no gray area, and this was going back to mental health and to the issue we're talking about suicidal rates, right? Because I'm looking at a little bit more back in time when, again, someone, you're supposed to fit within a certain category, right? So there wasn't a spectrum. And the ones who didn't fit into this category, you find that the suicide rates went up. Right?
So,
doesn't make any sense.
What do you mean by category, though?
I'm talking about you saying, for example, you're supposed to be a man, you're supposed to be this kind of masculinity. A woman needs to be this kind of femininity, right? Where you were saying how, but there's some females, depending on the environment, and also from neuroscience, the brain chemicals and so forth, testosterone and estrogen, whatever, right? That they might act very masculine, and a man might act very feminine. But where society, it wasn't accepted, where they have to fall with a category, you find that the mental health took over and the suicidal rate went up.
That people.
You know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying. It's not what I understand. I hear what you're saying.
That was just my thought on that part with nuances of masculinity between male and female.
Yeah. I get it. Thanks for the reflection. And is there a conclusion? Is there a thought that comes off that thought? Does that make sense? Like, so if suicide rates, if this is true, and suicide rates go up when you're not fitting into a certain box, is the conclusion there everyone should try and fit into a box?
No.
Or is the conclusion the box?
There is a grey area. The conclusion, there is a grey area. There's this, and there's a grey area. All equally valid.
It's like saying, for example, everything must weigh within a kilogram, but there's things that weighs grams, right? So if your scale is only within that kind of measurement, then people are going to fall between the cracks. You're not taking their experience or you're not taking them in consideration. Hence, like for example, with the people might know this is the DSM-4, which was used for diagnosing mental health and that kind of stuff. That was very category where you had to fall in within this particular category to be seen as this, or else you're left. You don't get the help you need. But now it's changed where it's more of a spectrum. So people who didn't fit in that category, now, because of the category becomes a spectrum, they actually get the help that they need. So they also get a diagnosis. So I'm saying that they need to be where nuances has to be there, because if the nuances are not accepted, or the gray area, you call it gray area.
No,
it's not. Okay, sorry.
No,
whoever call it gray area,
exactly the opposite.
If that's not accepted or not seen, then there's a whole plot of people that are not being seen, and if not being seen, they're being ignored. They've been ignored, and their needs have been ignored. That's affecting mental health. Affecting mental health, then of course you're going to get a lot of breakdowns. You're going to get depression, whatever, and then of course it's going to affect the suicidal rates.
Can I just say something, guys? My wife is very feminine. I'm very, well, we work well, we become very compatible. But that doesn't mean I don't realize that there's other relationships that works differently.
Yeah.
So what I say is not necessarily my life, but I recognize other people, like you say, exist out there, and that's what I'm trying to say. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
It's not that easy. It is not.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Why is it that it's only black people I see walking up and down the street with that mental issue? It's all over Arden, it's all over Brixton. I don't see no Chinese, I don't see no Indian or whatever the case is. It's just black people, I'm saying.
Because they fell.
Just a minute,
I'll answer your question. Because they fell through the cracks. They didn't have the support network around the family, and societies no longer supported them. That's why, and it could be.
Let me say one thing as well. Also, you have to also think about going back to when we talked about last week. A lot of the families, if someone's got mental health problems, his family support is important. Coming from a Nigerian background, you should follow here. The stigma attached to having a mental health problem. As a woman, she's got a son who's got mental health problems. She doesn't want to know him. She does not want to know him. And then people say to her, listen, that's your son over there. Don't leave him on the street, because now he's up and down the place, walking up and down the place. And also there's shame as well. So if that man's got mental health problem, how is he going to get the support? Family is also important when someone's suffering from. When I'm talking about mental health, I'm talking about the severe one, that bipolar, the schizophrenia. Them ones, they can be very debilitating in someone's life. And there's always a stigma within our community. Oh, it's a curse, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like having a broken leg. The only difference, if you've got a broken leg, you can see it yourself. You can look
Get their mindset right. And this is exactly what the problem is from the first place.
True.
Because we're born in this society, whatever. When me and Harry here, we're two white guys here, and one black guy in the school, we go to school, we're studying under the same curriculum, learning the same thing in that sense, really. Within that curriculum, one is being elevated, the other one is being felt like nobody. And I'm trying to say, if your head weren't right in the first place, that's exactly what, because when you go into the wider world and start going through life, and society starts slapping him across the face, that is what creates the mental problem, not knowing who you are in that sense, really.
There can be many triggers to mental illness. Some of it runs in family as well. So you've got people, even from back home, they had problems and they came here, or they were smoking weed. There's many triggers why people get mental health problems. But what I'm also trying to say as well, my cousin's a doctor, and when he was a junior doctor, they do rotations around a different speciality before they decide where they want to go in. He said psychiatry here, the amount of black men, they just jab them up with medication. That fucks them up. When you get a patient, and psychiatrist is not like cardiology, where you take a heart, you ECG of the heart. Mental, they'll look at your behavior and say you've got schizophrenia, give you antipsychotics. Not knowing, it could be something else. The amount of black patients, there's even a newspaper, the amount of black patients here who've got mental health problem, they get diagnosed with one condition to another. They detain them in the Mental Health Act. They inject with different psychotropic medications.
But also, I think all that is part of being a parent.
Okay.
And I think that's something that the way I see it, we're going through this transitional period in society now. The older generation was about survival, so they didn't give a monkey about each other. Like, you go to school, come back and slap you in the head, you're wrong, whatever. And I think now there's a transition now. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but there's a transition where we become a little bit more reflective.
Yeah.
And as parents, we become more reflective how we bring up our children. It's not the same as how we bring them up in the past. We recognize the dangers, and we kind of hopefully give them tools to circumnavigate those dangers. Because, to be honest with you, your first true training often happens in the home. If you can be pissed off with your family in the home, and you can almost deal with anybody outside the home, to be honest with you, because you know you have to live under the same roof with them. And I think there's a transitional period where, and again, I'm probably speaking from my own echo chamber, where we're recognizing our default, which we grew up with, in terms of how we're going to react when somebody's needing our help. And I think that's an important thing to recognize, is that, as you said, you recognize that your son needed this particular energy, this particular person at that time. Our parents would not have recognized that. My mom would have not recognized that. I can speak for myself. My mom would not have recognized that I needed that moment. It's like, go on, or come with a stick or beat or whatever. We don't. I can speak for myself. I don't beat. I think I beat my eldest daughter twice, and I said beat or smacked her. That's about it. And then my shouting gradually decreased because I knew it wasn't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
So I had to think about how it's best for me to deal with this situation, and I think there's an evolution happening there. I'm not saying for everybody, but I'm just saying.
Each child's different temperamental.
Each child is different.
Going on your point, Shaka, what about single parenting? Because I think that also has a big effect on mental health in general. Because
I agree with that, but I also said to you, this is one of the things I said about single parenting. Yeah, this is a parent, this is a parent. You're both single parents, but the reality is that that's your gene pool there. That's why this is my thing. That's your gene pool, and I don't blame. I think, from my experience, the amount of time that there's a blame culture going on both sides, the only person that loses out is that child, or those children. When it comes to single parents, it's up to us as adults to start becoming adults and mature enough to think, okay, what's my objective here? Is to bring up that child. And what do I need to do to bring up that child? Okay, you know what? You and I used to sit together. If you come conversation with me, then I need to make sure I have a relationship with my child.
Yeah.
I've heard so many guys say, you know what, I'm not doing it because I'm only speaking from the guy's point of view, because women is a different thing. Well, I'm not going to do it because she's in the way and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to wait the kid grows up and blah, blah, blah. But then sometimes it's too late. And then it's chance.
But I'm
not saying it's easy.
Yeah, I know. But in terms of going to court, if a guy wants to go to court for access, the most time they start the woman.
I know.
So the law is
changing now.
The law is changing now, but them times, so there was an automatic disadvantage.
Because what you're saying is that if it's a single parent and it's a girl, the man don't need to be around. And that was
no.
That was a message.
No, I'm saying it because
I'm not saying you, but I'm saying that was a message that came along, that a lot of girls were saying like, oh, I'm alright, I didn't have a father. But no, you're suffering because you did not have a father. Because the emphasis at that time, talk about 2010, around that time when the people going out, there's so many fathers and not around. You had a tickety talk or whatever you call it. You need a man to bring up a man. No, you need a man to bring up a child. It's the language you're using. But
the reason why I said it, because we're talking about, I'm a man, if I'm saying specifically coming from a man, I'm making it specific. So what I mean by that is because, obviously, a father needs to look after a child. A child is a child. It. But what I'm trying to say, if you've got a male child, even though a man and woman should also look after the male child as well, a man, that child may grow up not a father, that can have impact on that child's life.
A child, not the male child.
Yeah, on the boy's life. I'm going to say on the boy's life. Because growing up, Shaka, at the school I went to, a lot of people didn't have fathers. And it was painful because they were caught up, they were being bullied at school, for example. They don't know how to defend themselves. They will have so many things going on in their life. And what happens is the mum is trying to discipline the child and the boy. And the boy is thinking, no, you're a woman. Like, you can't tell him what to do. So automatically, there's a problem in the household because now he's a man, he thinks he's a man in the house. The woman, she'll slap him, well, it's not going to hurt me. And then now, he's a revolving circle because now, she can't enforce discipline and she's got no one else. That's what I mean. If that child had a father, maybe the child would listen to the father.
They had a male figure.
Or male figure or father. But most boy child would want a father. Obviously, everybody wants a father.
My hands are getting tired. Right. No, I was going to say, this weekend, I met a woman, right? And she had a son.
Yeah.
And she was talking about, how, he's very close to her. Anywhere she goes, he has to be there. And then she said this to me. And then I realized at the time she was actually describing toxic femininity, right?
Yeah.
In her son.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I think he really needs some kind of a male figure in his life. Yeah. Because what she's seeing is happening right now is he doesn't know how to act like a man, and he just want to be around women.
You see, I have a problem because we're going back into that masculinity. I have a problem. I do have a problem.
She has to be around women. Towards finance, and you know the perception towards finance, this kind of quasi upping of financial literacy in contrast to what we now in hindsight see as like the deliberate absence thereof. So, you know, money within the family, money or the absence of money within these like academic structures, whether it's something you can afford in the private or not, and just, you know, how that is going to shape things. Like, that's one thing. And then that's always for me in this weird collision with like my experience being and seeing the extent to which money is not going to save a family from being either a good or a bad family to a large extent, like regardless of you know the size or the portion, because if that money is going to be used as a veil so that, you know, the front of the family, appearance to the community or whoever matters to them is still suggestive of everything being perfect, all ducks being in a row, while on the inside it's a shit show that nobody wants to take care of because everybody's just too proud and too, you know, in their bag, or just in their conceit and arrogances that, you know, usually don't get fixed until, you know, all things are lost, or at least all but lost.
So that was the workshop that we had at the BMC on masculinity. And it went really far into racism and all that kind of stuff. What's my takeaway? I mean, what was the takeaway from that deep, rich three sessions that we had? 3 sessions. Now, the first thing I would say is we look at the nuances of masculinity. Now, I would say I will come to the end session because I think that brought it all together, and that masculinity and femininity is not classified by gender. We've got females that has masculinity, also toxic masculinity. We have males that has femininity and toxic femininity, and also the other way around, whereas like males have toxic masculinity, females. But what we're saying is that what have you learned from your environment on being a man or woman? Some culture might play an aspect, as for example, as a man you don't cry, as a woman you cook, you know, you clean. As a woman you should bear children and stay at home. You shouldn't work. As a man, you should only play sports like cricket, football. If you want to be a dancer, that, you know, that's a female thing. You know, how does it apply to you? How do you know that your version of masculinity or femininity is affecting you? But we mostly based on, we looked at on masculinity, and we thought in the beginning that it will be only around males, but we realized no. We're looking at single parenting. What about boys who are raising only with females? You know, does that affect their masculinity? Then we realized also with the environment where, for example, single parents, moms in general, that their sons might have uncles, you know, that plays a male role model in their lives, but also is it toxic role model, or is it a well-balanced role model? You know, but it was just about having a conversation about these things and around how does it affect us. Now, the one that came out, and to me, I like it happened because I like the way it happened because the facilitators were shocked. They mentioned black society, you know, the toxic masculinity in black society and about culture. And we turned around and said to them, hold on, which society are you talking about? Because which black society? Because my culture, for example, I'm from the West Indies, right? And my culture is totally different from the black British. And also the person next to me who's although he grew up in this country, but he's from a Nigerian family. And his whole environment or social world is Nigerian. So his black culture, his Nigerian culture is different from ours. So although we all live in Britain, and even if let's say I was born in Britain, if I was living in a Trinidadian, traditional household, it would be different. So my masculinity might be not I would say impaired, but influenced by my culture as a Trinidadian. Jamaican, same thing. Haitian, same thing. Black British, let's say I know a black guy who brought up by a black mom who's very traditional British, and so his culture is totally different. For example, he can't even eat, any kind of hot sauce. When I say hot sauce, I mean pepper sauce. Black pepper is all he can handle. But all these nuances, we have to take them on board. And how that affects mental health? We discussed that when there's categories and you expect to fit with a certain category, and the ones or the individuals who doesn't fit within that category and are not, I want to accept it, but they're not seen, that affects their mental health. And that is where you start seeing the suicidal rates going up, because someone's not accepted in society. What happens? They start seeing themselves as outcasts. It affects their mental health, depression, psychosis, blah, 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 blah. So, you know what? I'm going to leave it there as that. I am tired. BMC, this workshop was really good. And some people actually shared a lot more than they shared in 5 years. One guy said he's been here for 5 years and he never shared that much. And after this, I think a few of us actually need to go away and probably decide what's our next move to improve our mental health. Because I think this workshop has opened up not just wounds, it's given us food for thought, and also identify that there are areas where we need to improve in our lives. So yeah, food for thought. All right, litters, eggs, birds, and those shut callers. And that's the other thing that we brought up or say identify, that we all need to self-actualize. And until we are in a comfortable environment that nurtures you and encourages you to grow, you cannot reach your peak. So, masalama, bless, laters, all that stuff.